Who will LeBron and the Cavs face? We welcome you on in with Steve Smith, the Czar, Mike Fratello. I'm Jared Greenberg. We hope you are enjoying your Memorial Day and remembering those who lost their life fighting for our freedom. We certainly remember those on a day that has brought some great basketball memories, which we will look back upon over this 60 minutes as we take you up to TNT's pregame beginning at 8 Eastern. Also, in just a few moments, we'll take you live to Houston, where the Rockets earned the right to host the Game 7. Fellas, Chris Paul's status, we hope to learn over the course of this 60 minutes, but still very much unknown at this point. However, there are still multiple regular season MVPs. There are finals MVPs. There's a guy who's likely to win an MVP this year. Who do we trust the most when looking at Game 7, Coach Fratello, between the Warriors and the Rockets?
Am I allowed to pick from either team?
Yes, sir. This is your world, Coach Fratello.
The guy I'm going to trust the most is Klay Thompson. How about that?
Wow.
I'm taking Klay because he's a two-end player. Okay, he'll defend and every night come with that energy at the defensive end of the floor. And I just think right now he's in a groove shooting the basketball and understands the importance. And I'm going to go with Klay Thompson.
Yeah, Coach, me and Coach think alike. I mean, I would say Klay Thompson, and the guy also I would say 1B is Draymond Green. Those are the two guys just because what they do, they bring it every night. And I'm with Coach Klay. He might not make shots, Coach, sometimes, but what he does, he brings it every night. He locks in defensively. He understands how to play off guys, and he doesn't get out of character, Coach. Even when he has it going, he still gets his offense through the flow. But most important to me is Draymond because he has to do so much for those guys.
Okay, I don't doubt either one of those, and I think they're fabulous choices with Draymond or Klay Thompson. Klay certainly coming off a 35-point night. But let's put this in the proper context. I mentioned that there's multiple regular season MVPs, a guy who's likely to win one this year, a guy who's won a finals, two guys who have won finals MVPs. We didn't name James Harden. We didn't name Andre Iguodala, didn't name Steph Curry, didn't name Kevin Durant. Why don't we trust those guys in this situation tonight, just like last night when it was LeBron? No question, you knew 35, 15, and 9. Yeah, that would be on the low end of what you predicted for him.
Well, I think there's nothing against those guys. You asked me and Coach a question, right, and we gave you an answer.
But isn't that shocking, though, that it's not one of those guaranteed locks, future Hall of Famers?
You're not asking Coach who we'll start our franchise with. You're talking about this game right now. Who's going to bring what we asked them to bring to the table? And that's Coach said Klay, and I said Draymond as well, those two guys. So, but no, who would I like to take the last shot and who I think can get over there is totally different, who you trust the most. Trust doesn't have to be the best player, in my opinion, Coach. It's just the guy you trust the most.
Well, why don't we trust a Steph Curry or Kevin Durant?
Please don't say we. Just say me, you, okay? because I didn't hear Steve say he didn't trust anybody, and I didn't say we didn't trust anybody. We picked the guy that, going into a Game 7, if you're going to count on someone, we picked the guy that we're going to count on him to have a solid, good performance tonight. Now, you may not trust a couple of those guys, and I'm sure that part of it is because we've seen some in and outs. James Harden, going back a year ago, people said that, when it got to the big games and he just faded, and now we've seen a couple games here thus far where he's not the spectacular James Harden, but that doesn't mean he can't go for 40, 45 points tonight, just like Steph Curry might wind up making 10 threes tonight in the game before it's all said and done. He's capable of doing that. We know it.
This is what happens when Coach Fratello doesn't get to go to a barbecue on Memorial Day. He gets a little testy.
Very upset.
I don't think he was testy, Jared. I mean, but you're right. It's not that we're saying we don't trust these guys. They're fantastic players. We're talking about the eye test and what we've saw so far in this series. Yet they've been up and down, and that's not saying who's coach as a coach who he's going to still run plays for.
Right.
He's talking about who that you can say blindfold, good or bad game, that's going to come out there and do his job. And not saying those guys are not doing their job. Yeah, offensively, who would I want? I would probably say I want Kevin Durant if it was a game when you start talking about the offensive, most talented player that can take you over the hump tonight, Kevin Durant or Steph.
Let's go to a guy I always trust.
Okay.
Michigan guy, Sekou Smith.
I trust him too.
I know, me too. Sekou Smith joins us live.
He just doesn't trust you. That's the difference.
Sekou, do you trust me to orchestrate this interview right here? I mean, you okay with that?
I hope you get it. I hope you get it done, Jeb. You're
thank
struggling right now, though. Struggling. Coach Smitty wants you out of it.
I know. They're being a little difficult on this holiday when they're supposed to be joyous. Okay. Sekou, first and foremost, before we get to who you trust, what's the deal with Chris Paul? When do you think we'll find out, and what do you think the deciding factors will be with his hamstring injury?
Well, next few minutes, as soon as we get our hands on Mike D'Antoni here before the game, we'll have a chance to ask him directly, obviously, what Chris Paul's status is for tonight. And Jared, the rumblings I'm hearing is that, his injury, a hamstring injury is something that is not going to allow him to perform anywhere near close to what he's used to. And therefore, that would make him a liability more than an asset on this court tonight. I'll be very surprised to see Chris Paul in uniform and trying to contribute to this game.
How much added pressure does that put on James Harden with all the factors into this game?
I think he comes in with a ton of pressure on his shoulders anyway, based on last year's exit in the playoffs. When I first got down here mid-April, started covering the Rockets during this postseason, that was all anybody wanted to talk about, is how worried they were, that James Harden would have another moment like that, where he looked so out of it, so disjointed when they got eliminated by the Spurs, that's kind of hung over their entire playoffs. Think about it. To close out Utah, Chris Paul was the catalyst. To get them back in this series and to get them to a point where they had the Warriors on the brink of elimination, Chris Paul's the one who stepped up and did that. So tonight is a night where, Chris Paul's not available. That means that James Harden has to step up and have a Hall of Fame, all-time great, Kia MVP-type performance in a Game 7 on his home floor.
How about from the Warriors side? No Andre Iguodala again. Sekou, I don't know if you've gotten the sense here from being embedded with this series that there's a lot of skepticism nationally about why does Andre Iguodala impact this team so much when you still got 4 All-Stars? Why does he matter so much, I guess, is the kind of the question we constantly are hearing.
I think part of it, Jared, is that when you have 4 All-Stars, maybe that 5th guy is the one who can be pulled in any different direction to make things work. He's kind of the guy who keeps the rest of them connected. Draymond is without question the leader vocally and emotionally of this team. But I would tell you that Andre Iguodala is right behind him in terms of being the center of how this group operates. I mean, he's the steadying influence, the veteran guy of that group. And when they put that 5-man lineup out there, with him in the starting group, that's when they take it to the next level. And I think his importance to this team cannot be overstated. Not having him to finish off this series is going to be something that they have to overcome tonight.
We were talking, obviously, as you heard with the guys, about who they trust, and they both went with Klay Thompson, also Draymond Green. But there's been so much chatter over this series about how Kevin Durant has approached these games and how he has executed very un-Warrior-like. Do you expect to see a change from Kevin Durant tonight, and ultimately how that impacts Steph Curry is going to be a big question?
I don't expect to see so much a change in KD and his demeanor or how he plays, but I do expect the Warriors to remind themselves repeatedly that they're at their best when the ball is moving. KD has fallen into some of his old OKC habits, where, you get a tight game, everything's on the line. It was either he or Russell Westbrook taking the shot. Well, he's on a team now where ball movement is critical, and the guy who takes that important shot might not be the guy who starts out the possession with the ball in his hands. So I would expect Draymond and certainly Klay Thompson and Steph Curry to remind him throughout the course of this game that they're at their best when the ball's moving, and KD is getting it maybe, second and third opportunities in the possession to get a shot off. They're so good when everybody's engaged offensively that I don't think you can, overlook how important it's going to be for that ball to move. And when you talk about players you trust, Jared, I trust Draymond Green and Trevor Ariza because they're 2 guys whose games to go to that highest level, it's not predicated on making shots. And anytime you got a guy in the game who can affect the action on both ends without scoring being his only mode, I think that's really important in a Game 7.
All right, Sekou Smith joining us live tonight in Toyota Center in Houston, where just under 2 hours from now we'll have Game 7 to decide the second half of the NBA Finals matchup. Chris Paul officially will not play. Let's listen into Mike D'Antoni just moments ago addressing the media in Houston.
Can you take us through the process? Did he test today? Was it a close call?
Yeah, well, I don't know about a close call. It's just there's no way. So it wasn't everybody came to the same conclusion. There's just no way.
Smith, Houston Chronicle. Have you been able to talk to him at all and just gauge his reaction? He's waited his whole career to reach the NBA Finals.
I'm sure he's way down, devastated, but like us all, he's probably excited for the game and get the win and then get him back and we go on. But, It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing that could happen to him, but he'll make it.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. Did it even get to the point where he got on the court and you guys tested it all, or was
kinda? It's just he couldn't explode off. He couldn't push off of it. Just not ready. And I knew it was a long shot from when it happened. So, just nature's got to take care of it. It's going to be a little bit.
Okay, Mike D'Antoni breaking the news that Chris Paul will not play. He missed Game 6 as well, which the Warriors won that game. Remember, he came out with 22 seconds to go in Game 5 after that incredible second-half performance. So is this kind of what we expected? Does it change anything that there's no chance that he may play in Game 7 tonight?
Well, it doesn't. I think we all kind of knew that he probably wouldn't play. I mean, it's probably a 99% chance, and miraculously, if he had a chance to go, you didn't want to see him hurt himself. But I go back to say I just feel so bad for Chris Paul. Mm-hmm. You've seen a guy who worked so hard, and obviously his opportunities has been cut down because of injuries to himself or key members like Blake Griffin with the Clippers. And then this year, you get a chance to see how effective him and James Harden was working together. It was question mark with those two guys be able to play together, and then what he's done in this playoffs. Not only the scoring, but his leadership, and I think it's also helped James Harden. I think it's helped Coach D'Antoni. I think it's just sad for me, Coach, to see a guy, late in his career, and obviously still can affect the game at such a high level, that this opportunity is taken away, that they had a chance one game away to win in Game 6 or 7 to go to the finals.
I was thinking that this might push James Harden to the level, that next level of doing it in a huge, big game, nothing bigger, okay, so for him, since he's come into the league, knowing that Chris Paul's not there to help him out. He can't go through that stretch of having 6 bad minutes of play. Chris will come in and pick us back up again. This is on him right now. The way they play, their style of play, he has to create not only for himself, he has to create for others, he has to be consistent, and they're going at him at the offensive end of the floor for Golden State when he's on defense, so he's got to man up. He's got to own up to the responsibility of playing defense at that end of the floor while obviously heading the offense.
Yeah, that's right where I wanted to go with this. With last night with Cleveland and Boston, Kevin Love being out, even if Kevin Love played, LeBron was going to come pretty close to 48 minutes, right? And he did last night. With James Harden, the whole season had been made about making sure he had enough in the tank for the end of the season. So they staggered the minutes with James Harden and Chris Paul. Is this a player that Mike D'Antoni can look to, Coach, and say, I'm going to play him all 48. I can't afford to play one possession without him on the court tonight.
Let me ask you this. Does he have anybody better on his team than James Harden?
No.
Well, you got to win this game, all right? So just like LeBron, Tyronn Lue wasn't taking LeBron James out of the game last night. It's either the end of the season or they go on to the next round, to the finals, which was the objective of everyone. So, and LeBron knew that too. Yeah. I mean, LeBron's the first one that would say, I'm going the whole game if I have to go the whole game. So that should be Harden's mentality. What are you taking me out for? We got to win this game. Let me go play 48 minutes.
Is he capable of that?
Oh, yeah, he's definitely capable. This is Game 7. I'm with Coach. I think you answered the question like you said, whatever I have to do to win this game. If it's to be 48 minutes, if it's to sit down and stretch because we have a lead and he's going to try to give me some rest. But it's whatever you have to do, and if it calls for playing 48 minutes. But more importantly, he has to be engaged. And I think for my best player, if I'm playing with James Harden, I got to believe in him on both ends of the court. We understand guys have deficiencies defensively, but I got to believe that he's given everything he has. And people got to understand, he's capable, Coach. This guy is capable of making plays. We know he can score, but he's also capable of getting other guys an easier shot. He's capable of making this a game and down the stretch. Because he's so good, Coach, he could take over and win it.
Yeah, one thing real quick from last night's game. I haven't seen this anywhere. I haven't heard anybody ask the question, but because Tyronn Lue wanted LeBron to get a little rest last night, right after a timeout had been taken, do you remember they came right back, and before they went on the floor, took another timeout? Yeah. Used those timeouts. He had an extra one, didn't think he'd need that many. They had the lead. Right. I got to give the big fella another minute and a half. He took another one.
Yeah, it'll be real interesting to see how Mike D'Antoni handles this one. Coach Kerr as well, as you said, taking advantage of the fact that there's no Chris Paul again tonight. Well, Draymond Green, sensational again in game number 6. We'll give you the key stat that the Warriors need from Draymond that'll tell you the difference.